Welcome back, everyone, to the Nerding Grounds podcast. This is a weekly show about video games where myself, Quinn, and my buddy Matt talk about them and such.
Yeah, we do that.
We do that.
We talk about some games.
We talk about some games, and this week, we're gonna do our regular thing for a little bit up front, talk about what we've been playing. Then we are going to head over to a new little corner of our podcast called RETROspective, where when we do this, one of us picks an old game from our memory or perhaps something that we haven't experienced yet. And, we'll take a little walk down memory lane, look back, play it, talk about it, show some footage on here.
Footage.
Yeah. And this week, as you probably saw in the podcast title, we're going to be talking about the original Sonic Adventure from the Dreamcast era.
Yeah, we are. God, I love the Dreamcast.
I do. I mean, honestly, it was done dirty.
It was done very dirty. But if I can jump ahead just a tad bit, I want to talk about
How
Sonic
dare you.
Adventures. Yeah. But something about that era of graphics in general, that era of games, I understand that was our childhood. That makes sense. But even just looking at those low-res polygons and just simple, clean lines and just blocking this, it's just one of the most comforting things to me ever. Like,
yeah.
It's never a bad experience for me to just fire up one of those old games. I'm like, this is great. I love this. I don't know why I love this. I would almost take this over new age graphics any day.
Yeah, and it came about we've talked about this a couple of times before. It was a very awkward era for video games at that point because, if the Dreamcast had maybe waited a little bit longer or, had not put so much into the failed Sega Saturn, then it might have been a different story, but it just couldn't keep up with what came out right after that.
Yeah, I know. Which is sad, but it is what it is.
But here we are. Did you play anything else besides Sonic Adventure this week?
I really just been playing the Divinity 2, playing more of that. Though I do feel like at this point I'm biding my time. I wanted to play it specifically for, and I feel like I'm just biding my time for Baldur's Gate 3, which we are very close to.
August.
Yeah, August 3rd.
That's true. It's right around the corner.
People are already saying it's like on just a whole other level of
one of the
released.
best CRPGs of all time.
Yeah, not even out yet, and people are just like, "This is crazy." Like, this game is way too big, and it, I've seen some things where people are like, "Well, why aren't other why aren't other companies making a game as full as this, right? As complete as this, as like with like just so many different options and ways, which is all Larian Studio, right? And Divinity 2 has this all over the place. Like some of the things
they're the passion project developer to me.
Yeah.
They're the ones that put in all of the time and effort because they want to. They went after Baldur's Gate because they wanted Baldur's Gate.
Definitely reminds me of a lot of, like Bethesda of old,
back in the day
of old, Blizzard, my god of old, right? They're like the last bastion of hope.
There's that confidence and that hunger that they seem to have, and so
hopefully that never dies like the rest of them, but I guess let's not get into that.
Yep. I'm looking forward to it. But I'm realizing from topics I've talked about in this very podcast that I am terrible at sticking with CRPGs. I remember how I talked about Pillars of Eternity 2, and I just remembered that existed on my computer, and I don't know what happened.
They are just a lot. Like, no matter what they are, I always feel it's such a weird up and down. right? Like I get that feeling like I never want to put this down and this is like one of the greatest experiences of
Yeah.
all time. To I go from like that to being like agitated or bored.
Right,
Like
right.
back and forth. Or almost like I don't even want to start off the game because I know it's going to be a thing and I'm going to be reading a bunch of stuff and I'm going to have to make a bunch of decisions that actually mean something, right? And or research something to death before I make a decision.
The choice paralysis is a real thing, and
Yeah.
yeah, and it definitely is an
And deal with the
encumbering experience.
inventory and all that good
Hmm.
stuff. Right. But then once I do fire it up, it's like, oh, well, this is great. What was I even worried about?
How far would you say you're in to Divinity 2?
Uh, I mean, they do it by chapters, right? It's like
Yeah.
not too far. Like I got because I mean the game is excessive, right?
Hmm.
Um, excessively long at
The
times.
tutorial area is like
Yeah,
8, 9 hours. I mean,
yeah, and I did everything there.
yeah.
You know, I literally just
Well,
went
yeah,
through and
because
did like everything.
well, they put an entire. I mean, it's a prison more than anything, but it's basically an entire town
Yeah,
on that tutorial island. And
yeah,
so there's all these side quests and different things you can dive into before you
yeah,
even get to the mainland.
which is crazy.
Yeah, it
It
really is.
just like all of it's just optional too, and just so many different ways to go about doing things and just escaping like the prison area to get to the outside island, right? And then leaving the island, and it all just has its like I really enjoy how the island itself has its own big like background story, you know?
It does. Yeah, exactly. It's
That
not
definitely
separate from the larger tale for the sake of tutorialization. It's
yeah.
part of it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like almost masterfully crafted, right?
It's very, I mean, a lot of people called it like kind of the benchmark for modern CRPGs when it came out, or
Yeah.
maybe even like a year. I feel like it might have taken a minute to take off, but I can't remember correctly.
It definitely I mean people definitely call it like the greatest CRPG of all time. And it is the benchmark, right? And I think the only people that are gonna come close is probably who
Obsidian.
made yeah, Obsidian
Yeah.
and then Larian Studios themselves with Baldur's Gate
Obsidian to
3.
me seems to have more of a like bringing back the classic form, while
Right.
Larian to me is more let's revolutionize it and make it
Yeah.
scaled for the modern era, which I mean Obsidian does too, but it's a different flavor. And now you have something like Baldur's Gate, which clearly has a ton of budget behind it, just from the production to the
Oh
voice
yeah.
acting to the scale and everything. So I think that's going to be a quite an experience.
It's gonna be a trip for sure.
Yeah.
I will
And
say
maybe
one thing, call me a coward.
you're a
I put the
coward.
game oh. Um well my feelings are hurt now. I definitely put the difficulty on the lowest difficulty, which
You
I've
have
never done.
to.
I've never done in an
Don't even
entire
feel
game.
bad.
Yeah, don't feel bad at all. I can start to see like now after I finished the tutorial area and got into combat a lot. I can see with like what you're really supposed to do,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
compensate for the toughness of it all, which is,
Hmm.
combo your moves, freeze stun people as much as possible,
I don't
right?
know how you're supposed
All
to
that
play that
good
game on
stuff.
hard.
I Some people like to be tortured, I guess. That is one game though. Yeah, I put on easy, and I mean, there's still some times where it's just like, okay, I'm kind of getting my butt kicked a little bit here.
Well, easy kind of feels like normal because I think there's still a story mode below easy where it's
Yeah, I
essentially
guess so.
no real difficulty, but normal to me is just it's hard. You have to
Yeah.
be really you have to take like you have to just not make mistakes, and if you do, it's going to have real consequences to the entire thing, and then you have to do this whole 30-minute turn-based battle again, and it's just it
Yeah,
kind of sucked the fun out of it, and then I turned it to easy and I was like, "Oh, this is much better."
yeah, so much better, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I think for me was actually a big uh, I really, if anybody was like me, I tried it out before and I was just getting my butt kicked, and I think I just put the game down because I was like, like I definitely like this, but doing all this stuff and then getting into a fight that I have to replay like 3, 4 times is just maybe a
Right.
little bit too much. But
It is, yeah,
turning down
for
the
sure.
difficulties helped a lot.
Smart.
Eh,
Yeah. So I am still cracking away at Final Fantasy 16. It's actually managed to pull my attention away from Tears of the Kingdom a little bit, so that's a good sign.
I mean, as all Final Fantasies should, right?
Well,
For us, at
I
least.
have played like 160 hours of Tears of the Kingdom at this point. I think I needed
And
a break. Um,
probably
yeah, yeah,
that's a lot of hours.
it is. Turns out when you have to get back to where you were in a 100-hour save, it still takes quite a long while to get there.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
can imagine.
so I feel like I'm pretty decently into the game. It's got this weird effect where it just keeps opening up and opening up and opening up. And it's almost like you can't tell when the tutorial is over in that
Right,
game because it's not that they're introducing like a ton of, you know, crazy gameplay elements. It's just the way they keep opening the map and the different things that you can do, like say at your home base or side quests and hunts that are open to you. They just keep adding shit, and you're like, okay, now am I playing the game? Okay, now am I playing the game? And
mhm,
it's not unfun up to that
right,
point. It's just, oh, okay, so it just keeps opening. And so now like the yeah, so it's not unfun while you're accessing all these new areas and things. And so the map, for instance, it was a couple of narrow passageways and a town, which is a gathering of buildings at part of
yeah,
the map. It just kept opening up and opening up, and then they started connecting to each other. And so like, and now there's a bunch of names for different sections of the map that are not covered yet. So it's clearly a return back to all these spaces, and they just open up more and more. So that part's pretty impressive. And
Is it like literally like if I go back to this one area, there's now more space there? Like other areas in that particular zone have opened up where they weren't before?
yeah, like roads have, linked off to different things. And in some situations, it's
Oh, okay.
places that I explored at a different part of the story, which I didn't realize are connected by a road. And so
Right.
it opens up a little more in that way. So everything feels pretty connected. It doesn't fully feel like an open world game, but
Right.
I equated it to how 14 does their map, and I still think that rings true.
Right.
Um, the story I still find super compelling. I like all the characters. I have a few nitpicks, as I'm one to do.
Same.
The I'm not crazy about. I love the combat system. I'm not crazy about like the healing and items system because basically you have potion. You can put any item you want on up, down, right D-pad,
Right.
and then if you press left on the D-pad, it goes to your pet, and you can use attack up, like a different type of attack down, and a heal command right. But so often you don't off the top of your head remember which one's selected, and you'll accidentally heal, or
Right.
like when you're trying to do this. And the potion system is very strange. You can only hold 4 max at one time of potions and high potions, and if you find another one, it just automatically uses it instead of like putting it into a reserve inventory. And so when you're in a fight and you use all your potions, they're gone until you go buy 4 more. It doesn't like pull from a reserve stash or anything. And if you die in a battle, they automatically refill when you go try that battle again. Like even if they weren't full all the way, now you have like max potions, and it's just really strange. And so
That is strange.
sometimes I'll just go into like I'll stumble upon a hunt and I have like 1 potion, and I'm like, well, I'm
Just wait.
gonna die eventually. And but if you die and you go, but sometimes it doesn't do that. It's very confusing. And it makes me not ever want to
It
buy any.
literally isn't like it doesn't when you wipe it doesn't like pull from your stash then,
There is
or
no
you can
stash.
only. Oh, okay,
You have a stash of items you can find for crafting, but there's no
right,
stash. Like the most you can stash of potions into high potions is four, or high potions might be three, and then like defensive tonic and attack tonic have like two, and so it's. I feel like more often than not they're empty or low, and so either I have to just go into a fight and die to get them back for free, or I'll go buy them, which is a pain in the ass. And it's just it's a really weird half-assed health system in a game that doesn't seem half-assed with any of the other player choices and
yeah,
mechanics. You know, like you have these icon abilities and you can level them up and master them and then start moving them around and changing which stance has which attack. And so you can like eventually fully customize all of your abilities.
right.
So that's a strange thing.
Yeah, I mean, from the get go, when I saw the potion menu, right, thing on the bottom of the screen, I was just like, I don't like this. Like, I don't like that. Granted, that is because I really just wanted, for whatever reason, I wanted a party, right? I
Yeah.
would like to have a healer in my party. I'll even take a
Mm.
Donald, right, if I have to. You know, but just something about that just I don't know. I don't like.
I
I would
mean,
almost
yeah.
even like I get that it's like just why isn't there a menu, right? Why isn't there potion, high potions, elixirs, fuck, X
Yeah.
potions, all those things that are just so standard in Final Fantasies. It seems odd that they went with what is a flask. It's it's it's
Yes.
it's the Dark Souls
Basically,
flask.
it's a
Yeah,
Dark Souls flask that doesn't automatically refill
yeah, which that's the fact that it doesn't refill automatically, but refills after you
sometimes.
die sometimes, right? I guess
Which I'm
my
glad
guess
it
is maybe
does. I'd be really annoyed if it didn't do that. But
I'm gonna go ahead and guess that that might be during like a sequence battle, like storyline stuff where you can't go back to town.
well,
They'll
it
probably
is,
refill.
but it also happened yesterday when I was doing a hunt and I went and fought like a notorious monster. And I died because I had one potion, and I was like, I'm gonna die, but I'll learn its pattern and see how long I
Right.
can last. And I died, and I went back to an aether crystal, and I had full inventory of potions, and I was like, okay. Like,
I
and then
mean,
I
that's also why it's
rode
like
back and tried it again.
I like healing magic, right?
Yeah, yeah, I know.
At least
And
having
you
the
do.
dog with being able
The
to
dog
heal.
can only heal your little temp bar that can, so it's like an auto thing. So you'll press heal and it'll slowly go up, and then by the time somebody hits you, it's gone
It's
further back
gone.
than that anyway.
Yeah.
And then not to mention the dog attacks are things that you can apply to the end of a combo to for your dog to do like a crit hit, but you have to do it on the right timing. And I don't like the D-pad management in this game. It more often than not, I just kind of I just leave it. I'm like, whatever.
Right.
I'll try it sometimes, but trying to take my brain off of the trigger and face button combat to then go to the D-pad and accent a combo does not, it doesn't work
Is
with my
there
brain.
is there even anything on the left and right bumpers?
Yeah, so what
Or
you
the
have,
left and
L1 is just target, like single target. Um, L2 is switching your icon stances, which you do
oh,
like,
okay. Oh,
which I
you can
will.
actually switch them. I didn't know you could switch them mid combat. That's
Yep.
cool.
Anytime you want, and often you need to because, I'll have some attacks that build up a combo meter and some attacks that just do like crazy damage, and then some that are ranged now that I have a third icon.
Yeah. To maybe you need like a PlayStation Pro controller with the like little
Little
bumper
back
thingy.
buttons, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it can be a lot to manage. Um and that's that Devil May Cry fighting style. So like I get that. But yeah, that's just one little gripe I have that I don't think is very well thought out. The other one is the enemies. I've encountered a few tougher enemies in the field that have a like a battle radius, and if you go outside of that, they de-aggro and they go back to their spot and they go back to full health. And
Yeah, yeah.
the problem is, it's such a chaotic combat system, and there's so many particles that sometimes you don't even realize where you've moved on the map, and then all of a sudden they've like disengaged you and the music's gone, and this super tough fight has just gone back to zero, and I'm like, okay, that's great.
Yeah, why don't they just do again like a run system or something, right? Or do like
Yeah,
other games, you get into once you get into that space, if you want to run away, you have to like kind of you have to stick in the to the wall for like a solid second
yeah,
before you run away from combat.
right, right. Other than that, it's good. It's again really, it goes to upsetting territory so quickly, and genuinely upsetting, like stuff that gets to me. I'm just like, oh my god, that's bleak as hell. Like,
Hmm.
the violence and the
Yeah, they
um
really wanted to go for it, I guess.
just yeah, some of the messed up storylines that you run into. But I do find the writing consistently good across the board, even for side quests, and I like doing the side quests. They connect with the other NPCs and stuff.
Which I do love. I mean, we've even talked about, a lot of modern RPGs, they widely miss that point. That
Hmm.
storyline, a lot of the times, is very much to the point, right? Like
Yeah.
turn-based combat, as much as it's just a classic to me, and it's something that I enjoy. I understand that it's not that engaging, right? Um, compared to action-based combat, but like um a lot of these newer RPGs, especially ones that try to harken back to the classics, completely miss the story elements
Yeah.
in favor for doing what? Adding one or two things to the turn-based combat. Um,
I mean, that's what I'll say is it's so clear that they had a purpose here and something that they cared about because, and I didn't even, oh, like I didn't talk about this last time and I thought about it right after we got off. But I didn't tell you about the active lore system that they put in.
you did not.
Um, so basically, at any time throughout the game, whether you're actually playing or you're in a cutscene or you're just in a talking head scene, you can hold the touchpad and pull up an active lore screen, and it pauses the game and it pulls up lore pertaining to what you're dealing with right now. And so it has information about the kingdoms and the characters and their allegiances and all that stuff.
Right.
And it changes based on what you're doing. So at any point in time, if you're like, oh, I don't remember who this person is or how they're connected, pull that up. And even if in like a crazy cutscene, it's like, oh, this king is talking to this bodyguard or something, and pull it up. Like, who is this king? How is he connected? What's he doing? And it's just a
Yeah.
really cool system that I want in more games because, you forget
Yeah,
that
I
kind of
feel
stuff.
yeah, you do, right? Or when they have outrageous names, and then outrageous names for kingdoms and
Yep.
and kingdoms and all that good stuff, and royalty and parliaments and all this other crap you're supposed to keep track of, you get lost,
And
right?
let's say
You're like, I have no idea what the hell any of these people are talking about.
hypothetically everyone in your game is a white person.
Yeah.
Maybe you need a little help keeping track of who everybody is.
Yeah, with very white person names.
Yes, with very white person. Um, but it's a good game. It's engaging. I'm still quite enjoying it.
Well,
And the combat's fun. It's addictive.
uh I don't know. I want to play. I need to play. There are so many
You get
things.
to
I feel like it's gonna be one of those experiences where they do just enough right, to make up for, I don't know, not even wrongs. It doesn't seem like they do anything wrong. It just seems like not
No, it's
choices
just
that
confusing.
I would like, you know.
Yeah, it always puts me off where I'm just like, oh God, like I shouldn't have to worry about freaking potions right now because I've run into enough of them, but okay.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, but I guess it's just a game. It's a series as a whole that is really trying very hard to find itself, right? And
it is,
in
yeah.
a new age, and it has been like teetering. Um, One of the things that I guess is just constantly, consistently giving it sales is just its name alone. But
Hmm.
I haven't really been
Yeah, yeah.
disappointed except for 13. But
No, and everything, pretty much everything they've done with 14 has been good to a group of people,
yeah,
consistently.
oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
they've
I
got me
mean,
quite
it's
a few times.
yeah, same. I mean, and it's the only thing uh, that has stood up to WoW in the past 15 years, 10
That is true.
years. I mean, there's
That is
certainly
true.
been others, but nothing on that scale. Uh,
Yeah, for sure.
Nowhere neat.
Yep. Um, you want to talk about Sonic Adventure?
Let's talk about Sonic Adventure.
Welcome back. And we're going to talk about an oldie. This is the Nerding Grounds retrospective.
Retrospective. That's a
Yep.
cool name.
Thanks. It came to me in a dream about a pregnant Sonic. Oh no.
Uh,
Anyway, our resident Sonic guy, Matt here, wanted our first retrospective to be on Sonic Adventure for the Dreamcast, which came out in 1998. And then a couple years later was re-released as the Sonic Adventure DX edition on
yeah.
GameCube. And that was,
Which,
HD of 5 and all that stuff.
yeah, I don't think I ever played that version. This version.
I always played. I think I had a Sonic collection on GameCube that included that, and so that's what I always checked in. But I also played more of Adventure 2 Battle than I did of Adventure 1. I think I mostly played this on y'all's Dreamcasts, just like I mostly
Yeah.
played the 2D Sonics on your Sega Genesis. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
So yeah, had to
yeah,
pick a retro
first
game.
3D Sonic
Yeah,
ever.
first 3D, or I don't know how 3D was the
I mean,
Sonic for
this is
Sonic
pretty much it. This
3D.
was the answer
Yeah,
to Mario 64 and what also came out this year, Ocarina of Time.
yeah, yeah. Well, hard crowd to beat for sure. But my God, you
So you'd say
know,
the last time you played this was on Dreamcast?
absolutely.
Okay.
So I went into this really just assuming that the nostalgia goggles were strapped on like super tight, and just cutting off air supply to my brain, causing me to just think the game was great when
That's
it
how it
wasn't.
works.
Yeah.
That was
Uh
beautiful.
Thanks. But it is actually, it definitely has 98 jank, right? All over the place. But, but it is actually just a really good Sonic game. Like, why can't they just do this? Why haven't they just done this
I
from
yeah.
that point on? It boggles the mind.
Um yeah, I mean like if you're comparing the original Sonic Adventure to say Sonic Frontiers is the name of
Yeah,
the game that we
yeah.
reviewed on this podcast.
Okay, yep,
Um that one while it had a good amount of things going for it. It
right.
was fun. It had some really
It,
cool ideas. It felt kind of aimless.
yeah, shallow.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say that I picked this up and I had the same feelings as you. I mostly picked it up and was just like, this sure is a game from 1998, and oh boy, did they not know what to do with cameras, or
So
especially
I,
when you're moving at this speed.
yeah, well, first of all, I knew you were gonna say something about the camera, right? But
Wanted to punch
I
someone.
got on. And I was like, I don't know what I expected. I expected it to just be real bad. Some places it definitely is very bad. Um, but for the most part, it's not awful. The camera does
No,
a decent job with following you and just flipping where it needs to
it's
most of the
it's not
time.
terrible, but
Yeah,
Sonic's speed can sometimes be a real issue when you're
you
just
can like
trying to like
get
get
ahead of it. Yeah.
your bearing and stuff. So, um, it can be a little, it can definitely be a little janky and frustrating.
Oh yeah,
But there's
for sure.
charm. I mean,
There is.
I think outside of the cutscenes are pretty rough.
I don't know. I still just like I know Sonic has consistently been just
A
a big
cornball
cheese dog.
fest,
Yeah.
big chili cheese dog.
Yeah, big chili cheese dog for like can't get out of that. He's just hard stuck.
Yeah,
Uh
yeah.
which I don't know why. And this was like the pinnacle of that, right? This was like definitely a bunch of old Japanese dudes trying to be really cool and just
Radical.
missing the mark.
I just, I honestly had a lot of fun with it. You get into a cutscene and
Yeah.
be like, Tails, what are we doing? I'm just like,
Yeah. Some of,
this is all right.
some of the lines were like, I don't know, just maybe like smile, and not like I'm laughing or this is so cringy. I can't take this. It was more
Yeah,
like
yeah,
this is just Sonic being Sonic at this point. You know that maybe I'm just used to it because it's just never gonna change. But
yeah. One thing I can tell you that I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, I mean, comparing it to Frontier, I think mainly what this game does very, very well, which no other Sonic games can ever seem to do past two, Sonic Adventures 2, is the immersion, Like each little area is quintessentially just a level hub,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But and they could have just expanded upon this and expanded upon this and expanded upon this and it would have been even better. But uh I like how you go to like different areas of just let's say the town, right? You
Hmm.
just go to different levels, to like different levels. And we're looking like Frontier. Okay, you have this big open world, and then you have these same platforms that hold on, rogue hair in my mouth. You have
You can get your podcast for free if you report that.
oh, I just don't want to bother anybody. They seem really busy.
It's the right answer.
Yeah, that is always the right answer. Well, except I mean, I get it if there's hair in your food, but or in your podcast.
You're fine.
Uh, you go to the same little platforms every time, and then
Hmm.
you go into these kind of cool levels, but like somewhat designed well for like in a speed aspect. But
Yeah.
they're all very short. They look the same. They're very bland. They have nothing to do with thematically, nothing to do with their surrounding environments.
No, it's like a cyberspacey thing in
Yeah,
Frontiers.
we're like adventures. Oh, okay. A lot of things here. You can clearly tell they looked at everything that was Sonic before then, and
Hmm.
they wanted to put it in the game, right? They put like everything from Sonic Pinball being like the casino level,
Yeah,
right?
which actually had
To
quite a little bit of fun with that.
yeah, yeah. I was like, wait a minute, this is actually awesome. You have Sonic snowboarding, right? You have
Yeah, you do have that.
uh, yeah, the plane stuff. You have when you're on. I'm just like remembering older Sonics when I played this game too. When you're
Hmm.
on, which is probably like the worst level, but when you're on Doctor Robotnik's ship Uh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, there's just one specific area where you're just climbing, like a cannon's kind of shooting in the background, and you're climbing on like rotating platforms. You got to jump from one to another. That reminds me of just being on Dr. Robotnik's ship in like Sonic and Knuckles 3.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
There's definitely some harkening back to everything.
like a lot
Um,
of it's
yeah,
it's an accumulation. The whole game is like an accumulation of everything that has been Sonic, right?
yeah,
And then
yeah.
almost like an accumulation of everything in just gaming. There's so much like little things that don't necessarily work well. I don't even know if they work well for their time. But
Hmm.
like with all the different like mini games and characters, just a accumulation of just games in general up to this point
Yeah.
is what
I,
it feels like to me.
I think in that respect, like yes, there's clearly ambition there with all of the different playable
Yeah.
characters and the different campaigns and stuff. I think the problem it constantly runs into, especially in the beginning, is I guess just a streamlining of, sometimes you're just like it never tells you where to go until you find those little
All things, yeah.
bubbles, and it's like it could
Which
really benefit from
I
just a
don't
freaking marker.
I don't actually remember if those were in the original game.
That might be a DX thing because it was
I
such a
have to
pain in
look
the
into
ass.
that. Yeah, but I because I was just thinking, it's like, yeah, I just don't remember those being there.
Well, there were several times where I'm like, "Where do you want me to go?" And it was like,
Yeah,
"Where is the casino?" And then four different loading screens later, I'm like, "I guess it's in this weird back square section." Okay, sure. And then,
yeah.
but it's just so confusing to just get around.
Yeah, I think that's just 100%. Um, I feel like a lot of games have different sort of tricks, but I mean,
Hmm.
this is kind of in the beginning of 3D space, so I don't necessarily blame them for not really getting the things that were started to add to games to kind of like direct you in the right direction. But no, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right because it is somewhat bland in that aspect, and there is no key indicator of where anything is and where you might need to go. There's no like
Wait.
inter dialogue or you know any sort of
Well,
dialogue
and
that
the
will even say
cutscenes
like
don't
where
even
you should
end
go.
with like, "Let's head over
Yeah,
to blah blah blah." You just gotta go find those things and figure it out.
yeah,
And a lot of the time, it's you're going from this one to this one to this one to this one to this one, and it's like, just make me do 5 levels in Station Square, then make me do 5 levels in Mystic Ruins. Like
yeah.
stop making me get on this train. That was the part
Yeah,
that was
like
like,
I
damn it.
don't mind necessarily the back and forth, but it is too much. It is,
Yeah,
yeah, let me do like two or three. Yeah, you can literally even fit in the same little area, multiple sort of levels or stages.
right,
Which
right.
but it does like really bounce and there is too, but it bounces you back and forth a bunch,
Yeah,
which I don't necessarily understand the reasoning there. The game is as a whole disjointed, right? To say the least.
but if I'm gonna say
Um,
something decent, it's that it at least doesn't jump around in the way that two did, where it feels like there's less levels, and
yeah,
like while you're playing as Sonic 1 minute and then you're playing as Robot Tails the next minute, and then the next, and that felt even more disjointed because it felt like there was only 30% of the game that was actual Sonic levels, while the rest of the game was treasure hunts and mech battles, and it winds
yeah,
up just, I mean, the thing I cared about in that game was the Chow Garden, so it didn't really bother me too much. But
right. No,
this
I mean,
was more platform. Well, I don't even know if you can call it platforming, but more Sonic style game.
right. And yeah, I mean that's I just feel like there's so many things that this game does. Well, there's so many things that this game is trying to do, clearly. Like but there's a lot of it does so well. I mean, even just the idea of having these multiple different characters with different play styles, right? Which
Hmm.
may or may not like, but I mean, you're more than likely going to like at least one other thing besides Sonic. But just the character select. Like I
Yeah,
run through the entire game as Sonic and do all of his levels. Um, and then I
yeah.
can just go on to a next character. Or if I'm getting to like, okay, I kind of want like a different flavor, let me go swap. I mean,
Big the cat.
of course, yeah, Big the Cat. Of course, like, yeah, some of these could be like way better. Looking at you, Knuckles, and your collectathon,
They've always been doing Knuckles dirty.
but then they do things like try to tie in like Knuckles' backstory,
Hmm.
right? And the what is the Akita? What is it?
Echidna, something like
Echidna.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think
Where,
yeah,
yeah, where his people come from.
yeah. Where his people come from? It's which is like what they didn't even need to do this, but I'm not upset about it at all. You
Get
know?
ready to get fisted.
Yeah, it seems like, and again, you can kind of see where okay, like this should be cool. This is definitely me playing as Knuckles and punching things is a much better idea than me playing Werewolf Sonic
Oh my
and
gosh.
punching things. Yes. Yes, that
Or
was a thing.
me
That
making
was
out with human ladies.
yeah, which, whatever.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I can forgive the early 3D space thing,
It
but
is it is, to to that extent, maybe they just tried to do way too much. And if I wanted to look at like if they decide to redo this game and they could fully
like a
realize,
full remake or something. Yeah.
yeah, like every hub, like the city as a city where you could see the casino out in the good distance, and you
Yeah,
know,
exactly. Yeah,
now
do
that
like
it's
an island thing.
nighttime, it's all lit up and everything. So I clearly know, hey, I should probably go to the casino.
Well, I agree
Uh,
with you on that. As I played this and I saw some DNA of like why Sonic Frontiers seems like such a layup of a good game, and it wound up being an okay game because
yeah,
there was a fun factor there, but it didn't, like you say, have this charming early. It's like they tried to go in like a weird, serious direction for it, and so anything that was not just running around at breakneck speeds and doing roller coaster tricks was like, okay, I don't give a shit.
yeah. Well,
You
and
have,
that's
yeah,
yeah. A lot of the rest of the game was like there wasn't anything there.
no, just a bunch of
It doesn't
repetitive
make
boss
sense.
battles and
Where
everything.
this is everything Sonic's needed for the last
Yeah,
freaking 20 years,
no, I pretty much want them to
20
take.
goddamn years.
Yeah,
They
I
could have
want
just
just done this.
so yeah.
I
They
want
could
them
have
to take the engine of Frontiers and make something more,
yeah. I
charming
would hope so.
in
It's
this way.
like right. It's like simple things like okay, the coins you collect aren't just some eventual meter buildup. It's you can actually, which I don't know if that was in the original, but in the DX version at least, you can
Yeah.
use the coins you get left over to buy like rare things to feed your chow with. That's great. Um, you're killing enemies. They drop the little animals, which always was basically something about Sonic. At the end when you hit the capsules, you free a bunch of animals because Doctor
Hmm.
Robotnik, I guess, was collecting animals to make them into minions, robot minions,
Yeah. Yeah.
somehow, right? Um, presumably now thinking,
Sick bastard.
yeah, no, sick bastard.
Somebody needs to stop him.
So they brought all of that, like even that something really simple
Yeah.
idea
Yeah.
or background element in the original Sonic games, brought it in, and now you can give them to your chows to kind of uh, evolve them. So,
They did have that in Adventure 2
right?
as well. So yeah, like that was like
Yeah,
that's why that was such a good part of that because yeah, I was playing the same levels over and over again, but I was collecting things. I had a goal in mind. I was, doing
yeah.
this.
It
And
always is that. I
I
mean,
didn't get
not even.
super far into that here, but yeah, it's pretty much what's going on.
I feel like there's so many games that don't even have a reason period to kill enemies ever. And technically like a Sonic game, unless A, they could be a bridge for me, with the homing attack. Great,
Mhm.
fantastic. Obviously, this is the first game that ever implemented anything like that. So that
I
was
do
a great
like
idea
that.
right there. Yeah. And then just having, and they kept that in ever since. Uh, but then, they do provide collectibles and stuff like that after you beat them, which I'm
Mhm.
just like, this is perfect. So I mean, if you like chows and you do, everybody does, then now you have a reason to search the overworld and go back through levels and kill enemies. Not to mention, obviously, I'm just a big Sonic fan, clearly, but I something about those levels have always been when I run through them and I do poorly, I'm like, I want to run through this again and I want to try to get like an S, or do something different because
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
always like different ways to go about doing the levels, right? It,
There is, yeah.
it
Um,
I do risk maybe that's the problem with I guess Sonic in general, and just how I guess he's supposed to be, gotta go fast and all that. It's hard to kind of put different collectibles and things like that within a
yeah,
particular
it
level.
creates an obstacle with just how you approach the game design because, even with Sonic doing something as simple as stopping and going and checking behind this corner is not the same as it is in Mario
Yeah, yeah,
because he's not built to move that way. And so whenever you really have to stop and try to do something more, like pick something up, it sucks because
yeah,
he's just like he's on ice all the time
yeah. He is
because
on
he
the
has to go from 0 to 60. And so
Yeah, and I
that's
hate how specifically in this one, if you touch anything, if you get close to
oh
any
my
sort of object, it's a such a dead stop.
It
It's
happened to
actually
me 3 times in the opening level with the the killer whale,
yeah.
where I would go, and because I hit the loop de loop, somehow I hit it wrong. You just go ricocheting off into the water, and it's like I was just pressing forward. I don't know what I did wrong, but it's almost like
Yeah.
the camera changed the orientation mid like speed pad,
Yeah, so when
and
you're
you would
like
just
going
go.
around the corner and the orca's coming after you, you have to like hold forward,
And
right?
it's really awkward, and then you hit that loop de
Yeah.
loop, and you're just like, "Meow."
Yeah.
You're like, "Okay."
That's how that's
Right.
always been. I like almost specifically remember that when
Yeah,
I was playing. Like, okay, this is the part where, you
you
know,
clip through a ramp.
don't change where you're pointing.
Yeah, and so that's the jank, that's the Sonic jank,
That that is 100% the Sonic jank. The 90s jank.
and it's still in Frontiers. Like, that jank is still in Frontiers.
It
Um,
is. Well, it's maybe even worse because it just lacks direction, right? And then it is holding on to where in adventures, again, all the crap before really just helped enhance the game so much because they
mhm,
really just took like, hey, how can we take like these old levels and this feeling and literally every part about Sonic and every other Sonic game and make it into a 3D space. Frontiers, it feels like all of that's holding it back from like a lot.
yeah,
Like even having the rings and like the overworld, which here it doesn't. Right? They don't even have enemies in the overworld. I understand they wanted to make it like a big like open world playground sort of thing,
mhm.
but
There's really not
I
much
don't
to
know. Yeah,
do.
I don't know if I really need that. You know,
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm fine with going into
I'd rather
levels.
an area that I can explore, and then you know getting on to Dr. Robotnik's ship and that being a level hub of very much so Dr. Robotnik ship themed levels.
Mhm.
That's great to me, even though those levels kind of suck.
A
Uh,
little
but
bit.
well, no, they feel. I think they were very much so. Uh,
Made to be a little irritating.
yeah, and maybe just the hardware could not match the vision
Oh,
whatsoever. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
it's
like
very
in sense
palpable.
of lagginess, just in sense of like what's going on. It's kind of
Yeah,
gets really messed up at some points. Glitchy, or just
definitely.
overall like not I don't know, not cohesive.
Just
Not
polished
Yeah.
necessarily.
But other levels very much so do feel polished, right?
Yeah. No, I mean I did enjoy it. I think I had a little more less like I had some nostalgic attachment to it, but
Right.
I was definitely more of a Mario person growing up.
Right.
And so when I started playing Sonic, I was just like, this doesn't feel like I get to do anything. I feel like I'm just pressing forward and hoping for the best. Like that was, and it took me a while to really understand it. And it was Adventure 2 that made me like Sonic. But
So yes,
um,
it is that, but it's doing that as best as you possibly can.
yeah, which is a tough call. But
Right.
kind of one thing I'm surprised isn't done more often, like with all of the retro revival thing going on, that there isn't a group of Sonic clones out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, whatever. So you know what I thought would be cool? Mentioning
Mhm.
some of the games that released in the same year as this one.
Oh yeah.
I named one
Tell
earlier.
me.
We got Banjo Kazooie, another
Fantastic. Yeah.
platformer. Half Life,
Wow.
right? If you're looking for a complete tonal shift.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2, if you're looking for a further tonal shift. Spyro the Dragon, another platformer.
Yeah.
StarCraft.
Oh my. Wow.
Metal Gear Solid.
Man, what a great year. Uh,
And then, of course, Ocarina of Time.
what a just a groundbreaking year for gaming, you know?
Sonic being at the top, and then all those great ones to follow after.
Yeah, and it's just a straight freaking downhill after there. I really don't get I do feel like that had to be a really big budget game. I know that clearly they wanted that huge Sonic experience to sell Dreamcast, you know?
Yeah.
It like much like Mario 64 was of course selling the 64. They definitely wanted that for the Dreamcast. That shows. I mean, this thing had to have huge budget. I mean, look at some of those like CGI cutscenes. I mean, there ain't much to them, but
No, but there's
back then
some
it's
stuff
like,
there.
holy crud.
It just you can tell it would have benefited from maybe releasing on the GameCube originally. Not saying that that was
Yeah, of course.
plausible at the time, but I think
Massive.
it was planned for Sega Saturn as Sonic something X or something like that. It was a different title, and they basically rebuilt it for the Dreamcast. But it definitely some parts of it feel a little slapdash. It's like
Oh yeah.
it looks like they had a lot of money, but not a lot of time, which was
Yeah,
the
well, and I
case for
don't
the
know.
Dreamcast.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the case for all Sonic games moving forward.
There's
For
always that element of duct tape going
Yeah,
on with
there
Sonic
really
for
is.
some reason.
Well, Sega is at this point. Sega is an extremely small company by comparison, and their actual development team is got to be
Yeah,
minuscule at best.
and their marketing team was kind of on the way out a little
They would
bit.
maybe do maybe they would do better. Maybe the franchise as a whole would do a lot better with them, giving the license out to
Still feel
someone
like it's
else.
part of their DNA for Sega to make more with little. I mean, you look at
Yeah,
the whole Yakuza series, and it's not like those games are reiterating in a groundbreaking way on their previous titles. The reason they come out every year is because they're building off of the groundwork of the previous game.
right.
So yeah, I mean, it did it it I will say the experience brought me back to a different time of gaming, and that was enjoyable.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, really. I mean, we call this retrospective, and I guess if you're looking to feel or be very retrospective and want to relive your childhood, definitely go play this Sonic game. Right, like it's been very enjoyable. Like, after this podcast, probably gonna go play it to just
Yeah.
and play it all the way through, and then play the second one. I'm just like I honestly did not expect. Obviously, I really love Sonic. I
Sonic Bug.
yeah, I just you know, I 100% figured I was it's like figured the game was going to be trash. Um,
Well, I mean, when something, when it's something that you can definitely pull out the good from,
yeah,
and I mean, you and I have always been good at that. We can go back to old games and we can ignore the cracks and the jagged edges because, this was the era where we were really getting to know video games and we got to know them for the purest form of joy that they brought, which was just like, hey, this is really cool that I'm able to experience this. And, that's just what
yeah,
we had.
yeah. It's
Same as
good
people,
times, right?
have nostalgia for the 8 or 16-bit era. It's like, you know,
And I definitely like well, I like playing old games. Um, but I'm a person that really likes to just look forward constantly, you know?
yeah,
Um, and it was just such a it's been such a pleasurable experience for me to
that's
just play
great.
that game again, yeah.
Nice. Well,
Got
that's
to add it to
exactly
PC.
why we're doing this.
Yeah.
I
That is
mean,
why we do this.
you're talking to someone that put an obnoxious amount of time into learning how to deal with the the retro handheld
Yeah,
emulation and stuff, and I still am. In fact, like, kind of how I played this. So,
right.
I it's like I totally get it, and I think I'm gonna enjoy doing this a lot more.
Me too.
I don't know what I'm gonna recommend for next time, but I will let you know as soon as possible. I think I might go to the Super Nintendo. I don't know. I might try to find something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess so. I guess on an end note, Sonic Adventures
It's
1 through
better
10. What are you
than
thinking?
Mario.
No,
Oh, if I had
I
to get.
mean, yeah.
Oh, actually, that'd be a good time for us to decide on a rating system. Do we do 1 through 10 or we do 1 through 5? Because 1 through 5, you get the added bonus of you don't have to get too granular. It's like it's terrible, it's all right, it's good, it's great, it's a masterpiece. And then,
Right. So I definitely think we could do like a 1 through 5 tentatively, right? Until
yeah,
we come up with some non-numerical system, because that just doesn't seem very us, despite
right.
the math shirt that I'm wearing right now.
I like math is easy. If
Fine,
I
yeah.
had to give a rating to this, I would say I'd probably give it a 3 and call it good.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, 3, 4 being what? Very good, and 5 being
4
perfect.
would be great, and then
Yeah.
5 would be like masterpiece. I mean, no game is without its flaws, but
Right.
we're
Yeah.
talking Ocarina of Time. I'd go 5.
Right. 5.
Personally,
God, I don't know. Why do we
you want to
always
do half points, don't you? You
yeah. Oh
son of a
yeah. I
bitch.
told that it's like it's a 3.5, right?
And I'm
You
going
know.
2.5.
Uh. Oh, you.
That's why there's
How,
two of us here.
yeah, that is why the two. I mean, clearly, one of it. Like, I know I'm the Sonic fan here. I just,
That's just a
I,
10-point
I
scale.
really, I'm honestly just surprised
And
with
how enjoyable this still was for you.
yeah, yeah, and well, but then that's just okay. So game design it's like, so game design more or less was like bad, but I think that's just because who knew what they were doing at that point,
Yeah, no, I
right?
think that's why I think within the context, I think it's good.
Yeah,
Um, like I wouldn't call this bad because I know going back when I played the Dreamcast, I was like, God damn, this is crazy.
yeah,
Just from like a visual spectacle, point of
yeah.
view, it was really, really something.
And each of the levels are just like fun too, right? Like
Hmm.
playing through the, I think, when I really think about new Sonics and comparing them to Sonic Adventures, I always like to think about like the first level where it's really just kind of got to go fast and you shoot through and there isn't too many breakpoints, where a lot of the other levels are not really like that. And I don't know why I always had kind of that in my head, but somehow in Adventures, at least so far, just from me replaying it, the moments where you aren't just going really fast are more enjoyable to me than any point where you stop
Yeah, yeah.
in the newer games. And I guess maybe that's just because, like, I don't know, levels are longer, there's more again, there's a lot more immersion going on.
They don't blow their
I don't
load
know.
too early.
Yeah, there's good pacing. Yeah, really.
I
Very
agree
good
with that.
pacing. Just
Yeah.
just good, solid, steady strokes.
Good Sonic strokes.
Yeah.
And that's how you get pregnant Sonic.
All right, it's getting weird. 3.5. I'm giving it a 3.5. It's not really a 4.
Matt has decided to work on a 10-point scale, and that's fine.
Yeah. I just can't, I can't. It would be like what, a 7? But if
Uh,
it's the 3, that's like what, like a 5 on a 10-point scale? It's garbage.
you can't translate it. That's why you can't translate a 5-point to a 10-point scale. It all falls apart. We have to exist in rule. I'm
All
fine
right,
with 10.
fine.
I'll
All right, fine.
go with 6.
See, and it's a 7. It's a 7 for me.
That's perfect. That works. I like
Yeah.
it.
10-point grading scale. I'm gonna come up with something that just doesn't even make any sense. Don't worry.
6 chili dogs out of
Yeah, it's
10.
definitely 7 chili dogs.
I mean, we had a lot of fun with the A, B, C, D, well, the S through F. Maybe
Yeah.
we can stick with that.
Yeah, maybe we want to, right?
Because if I was looking at it in all of video games, I would put this.
All right, hold on. Cut all of this or don't. I don't care. We're just gonna think about it in context of the game each time, right? So this is definitely a solid 7 chili dogs. For you, it's
Mhm.
6 chili dogs.
Yeah,
Yeah. Which is
a full
probably,
meal.
yeah, one less chili dog than the amount that it would take for you to puke profusely. So,
Oh,
you know,
while you're in the
6
corner
7
going,
chili
I
dogs.
love Sonic. Exactly.
I gotta go fast.
Well, you
Gotta
heard
go
it here,
fast.
folks.
He's my
Matt
boy in blue.
can eat 7 chili dogs in one sitting,
No.
and is going to on the next episode.
I mean,
That is why we started video podcast for this
I
purpose.
I could attempt to, but I would hate myself even more than I already do.
As your friend, I would actually stop you from doing that to yourself.
Thanks.
It's
Appreciate
abuse.
that.
All right. Well, that's Sonic Adventures, and I think that is the podcast for today. So, thanks everyone for stopping by, having a listen. If you listen to us on Spotify and other podcasting apps, that's great. If you did on YouTube, that's great too. Please subscribe wherever you're at. Leave a question, leave a comment, engage in some way. We would really appreciate it. And tell your friends. And again, you can send questions to thenerdinggrounds at gmail.com, and we will read them out here on this podcast.
I need a Sonic shirt.
You used to have several.
And now I have none. Goodbye.
Send Sonic shirts. Matt, do you want to share your shirt size just in case someone wants to send you a shirt?
It's like a large.
There you go.
Yeah.
Large.
Yeah.
I wear double XLs now because I like to feel small.
I mean, that's cool. I dig it. Right.
All right. Have y'all selves a wonderful week/weekend and be kind to one another. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.